Hey everyone, Josh here. So today we've got a nice and simple video. The customer's already diagnosed the issue. It's just now we have to fix it. This video is going to be obviously on how to fix issues like this. So we've got a connector. The wires are broken off flush. So I don't know if you believe me if I said it, but this little connector is $120 from Volkswagen. So you'd be thinking it's made of gold, which actually the pins are gold plated. So that's the main issue. This connector itself, $7, $8 US, not a big deal, but the pins themselves, the repair wire through Volkswagen is 80 something US. So it's going to be well over $120 Canadian by the time it's here. So a little bit of work. We found a lot cheaper solution, and there's a few different ways that we can do this.
So if this guy had any more of a pigtail, the very first thing I would do would be butt connectors. So that's the Volkswagen approved method. Even the repair wires will be just a wire with a pin, and then you use a butt connector to basically connect it together. A nice high quality non-insulated butt connector, and then dual wall adhesive lined shrink tube, better than new. But as you can see, this guy left nothing there. So the other option is come back to all of your parts engines in the corner of your shop. So I love having these sitting around because it's got all these different connectors just hanging out. But yeah, if you need one, you just cut it back, butt connect it in, and carry on. So the issue is fuel temperature sensor, I believe, is the only spot this connector is used on TDIs, at least to my knowledge. So if I'm going to find a connector, it's not going to be here because the harness isn't on my only CJAA, so I'd have to go to the scrapyard or order it from a wrecker's. So that was kind of the plan until I did a little bit of research. So just like timing belts and a lot of components on Volkswagens or any manufacturer, these aren't actually made by Volkswagen. They're made by a different company and then just get the Volkswagen stamp on them. So you can get them through Volkswagen with that part number. You're just basically paying the Volkswagen markup. So the other cool thing we've got is the internet now, so we can Google that part number and see where it comes up. Okay, so there's a few nice online retailers that you can use. So shopdap.com, you look up the part number, so $8 US, not a huge deal. As you can see, that is the connector that we need. Everybody's got really nice pictures of this, so that's the connector we need. And then they also tell you the previous versions and repair wire with terminal ends. ECS is also an okay place to look up part numbers. So again, $74. You can zoom in on what you're getting. Nice, they tell you single wire with 2 gold plated connectors. So these are the Volkswagen part numbers. That's going to be about $80 US from these 2 different companies. You can probably order it from your local Volkswagen dealer, but I always seem to find online stuff's quite a bit cheaper than going to the dealer. So now we're going to try and find the aftermarket. So basically, I'm going to Google the part number here again, and instead of clicking on strictly European Motors or ECS or like an actual part like a Volkswagen place, I'm going to click on like Amazon or an eBay listing or somewhere generic. So it took a few listings, but we finally found a place that had both the Volkswagen part number that we were looking for, and if you scroll down, eBay usually does a pretty good job of having other part numbers or OEM part numbers, which they didn't here. They put the Volkswagen part number, but you see the brand. So this is TE Connectivity, and you go to their description. So Volkswagen part number, and it's got the TE Connectivity part number. So housing, terminal, and seal. Copy that. We're gonna get rid of one of these Google searches, and this one. Let's go to TE Connectivity. So at the TE Connectivity website, you just put the part number in, not the Volkswagen part number, but the actual TE Connectivity part number. And again, you got another picture, shows you what you need. And unit price is $1.27 US. So not a huge difference, but it is the connector. So the nice part about this will be compatible parts.
So you can hit see all products. So we're gonna have to order one of these pins from, well, they list you here, DigiKeys, Mauser, Arrow Electronics, or you can more distributors, whatever's closest to you. And then we're gonna need pins and seals actually. Okay, so up first we're gonna need to do seals. So you're gonna need to figure out what gauge wire that you're going to be using or what's on the harness. So the repair wire is 0.5 millimeters, so I think that was like 22 gauge. Like, it's really small wiring. So we've got 5 seals here to choose from. These two here are cavity blanking, so that's if you've got a 2-pin connector and you only need 1 wire, which that's not the case. So the other one will be these 3 here. So these are going to be different wiring thicknesses. So I ordered these ones. They are from 18 to 24 gauge wiring. So nice and simple. Then the next thing is going to be the connector, or like the pin itself. So click on this. I have 9 options pop up. So varying anywhere from 29 cents, 6.4 cents, 9.1 cents, 8.2 cents. So basically you're going to need to figure out what gauge you need, which we already figured out with the seal, and then also the kind of coating. So where did they have that here? Somewhere they had what was the coating, but I've got my pins here that I've already ordered, which is that one there, 7-1452665-2. So I think it's the AU will be gold plated. That might be tin, and it might be a silver as well. So if we click on that, it's got all the information here about it. So it's for 22 to 23 gauge wire, low power. So we go down to features here. So interface plating, so gold. So that is what ECS tuning says. That's what the gold plated connector is. So we're going to replace it with as good as what came off. So again, so that's a little bit of a price difference. So yeah, 61 cents times that by 2, so you're $1.20 versus 74. So it takes a little bit of research, but that's your connector. So I think the connector, 2 pins and 2 seals was like $3.17 Canadian versus the 120 or whatever it would be from the Volkswagen sellers. So I ordered the stuff through Mauser. It's somewhat close to me, and if you spend $100 Canadian, you get free shipping, which I work on John Deere's mostly, so I've got a nice assortment or a few assortment kits of this stuff. So I go through like weather pack pins like candy, so it's pretty easy to spend $100 or $97 and then throw this stuff in for the free shipping. So I've already filmed the part on fixing my sister's car this morning, but I had my somewhat newborn son there, and he's got a new fascination with wheels and tires and playing out in traffic, so I was chasing after him while trying to film and fix a car, as well as my sister's dogs barking at us. So I'm going to cover this off on the bench before I skip to that part. But it's really, really simple. The only downside is you're going to need a different style of crimpers. So basically you've got your pin. You've got this spot right here, which is where your wire would sit. So I don't have any really thin wire, or else I would just crimp one on here. But you'd set the copper in like that. And then on your crimpers, with something this small, you would probably use the E, and the open side would face up top here. So when you crimp it, it's actually going to basically push those tabs up and around and down into the wire. So you would crimp your copper part on there, and then your seal would sit like that, and then you do the same crimp on the back on these bigger tabs, and that holds the seal to the pin, and the wire is already held to that pin as well. So quick and easy crimp. You can find these on Amazon, like $20 or $30. I would definitely recommend getting the ones that pivot and come in nice and square. You can get some cheaper ones that are just like a cross pivot, but then sometimes the crimps kind of get messed up because these dies don't come in square. Actually, I'm going to film this. So I've got these weather pack pins, are a dime a dozen, and I've got them that'll fit this gauge of wire. So we've got your wire, which would be on the car, which you'd be using the yellow seals for this particular pin, but you basically slip this over. As you can see, the weather pack seals are pretty similar, just a lot bigger. And same kind of deal. You set the copper into that crimp area. It's a bit trickier. So if you kind of see that, and then you just kind of crimp in on itself like that. Nice tight crimp. And then yeah, you can slip your seal over top like that, and then same deal, just crimp that down. Alright, so we're at the car, we're going to do the wiring now. So if you use the old connector, you can see yellow wire is in pin 1, and the, I guess, brown would be pin 2. So we get the wires stripped back how you normally would. Slip these seals over so that that big opening side here will be at the strip sides. Okay, so it's a really simple setup. That first opening piece gets crimped on the wire right there, and that second really wide piece gets crimped onto the seal, so that way the seal stays where it needs to be. So these wires, I think they're 22 or a 24 gauge. They're really small, so my normal snap-on crimpers that go to 20 wouldn't be able to do it, so my cheaper ones actually were able to strip the wire, and then you used these special crimpers that we talked about. Crimp the wires down good and tight, give it a good tug test, and then we're good to put the pins in the connector. So as far as getting the pin in, so you need to make sure, so the locking side is at the top there, so you got the nice square, and then the little tab on the top, that's where that locking tab grabs into, so it's got to go with the locking tab facing up in this case. Okay, so once both wires in there, you kind of give them a tug because they get locked into the connector itself. Once it's in where it needs to be, put the purple lock in, and then we should be set. Alright, so we got that one wire is bare, so we got a little heat shrink on there, and then wrapped everything up with tape nicely. I think we're going to be set, so we're going to clear the codes, and then that should be it for this car.